This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're fortunate to have as our guest one of my favorite guys in Alabama politics. I don't call him a politician; he's a public servant. So, Young Boozer the fourth. Young Boozer the third. Okay, yeah. Young Boozer the third. That's right. Yeah. Young Boozer is our state treasurer and has a record for longevity as state treasurer. And we're going to talk about some of the things the state treasurer's job does and what all he's doing over there as a state treasurer. We may get back to some of his family background. He's got a great family heritage, great Alabama heritage. But Young, good to have you on the show.
It's good to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Young's told me, I said, Young, you look good. You hadn't gained too much weight or anything. And he says, wear the same thing you did in high school.
I do.
You finished high school at Tuscaloosa?
I did. I'm a black bear.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Tuscaloosa High School. Your daddy was a great football player. We'll get into that maybe if we have time.
Yeah.
He played with old Bear Bryant.
He did. They were roommates at the University of Alabama in the 1930s.
I love it.
Yeah.
Is that not Alabama history?
It's Alabama history.
Let's talk about that. We may get back to that, but talk about there are 3 or 4 things y'all doing over there. People don't realize what all the treasurer does in the state. Now, this is going back to that though. Tell me the year you were first elected to a first 4-year term.
I was elected in 2010.
2010, and then you were reelected in 2014.
That's correct.
So you served 8 years, 2 consecutive 4-year terms. Then you went out because you were term limited by the Constitution. Then John McMillan came in.
That's correct.
As treasurer for a year or two.
About 2 years.
2 years, and then he left to be head of the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission.
That's correct.
In 2020. So you were appointed by the governor to come back in because you're not like the president of the United States. You're not precluded from just 2 4-year terms. Period. So you came back in. You can run again this year in 2026.
I can.
If you want to.
Yes. Yeah. You know, the interesting thing is that after I was termed out, I went to work as the assistant superintendent of banking.
That's right.
And I did that in the interim. The governor called me the Saturday after she was inaugurated in that term and said, would you be interested in doing that? And I said, in a heartbeat. So I went over and did that, and that was where I was until she called again and said, John McMillan is going to retire or resign. Would you be interested in being the treasurer again? And I had the opportunity to say, once again, in a heartbeat. So I came back to finish out his term.
Young, I've said this in my columns and I said it on the air and everything else. We have never, in my lifetime anyway, had someone as qualified, almost scripted to be the state treasurer as you were with your banking background. That's why you were perfect for assistant banking commissioner and everything. Tell everybody, when you left Tuscaloosa High School, you went to undergraduate school at Stanford. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then you majored in finance or some business.
I had a degree in economics.
Economics.
Right.
And then you went to the Wharton School of Business after that.
I did.
And then you went right into banking, but international banking with a bank in California, weren't you?
My first stop was at Citibank in New York.
Okay.
So I was in school in Philadelphia, and I thought I wanted to work for the biggest and the best bank in the world. And at that time, it was Citibank. And luckily, I was able to get a position there. And I was there for about 5 years.
What was your expertise?
Well, I was in corporate banking, so I was in corporate lending, but I also sort of had a focus at the very end of my career at Citibank in energy lending. So we were doing that, and a guy by the name of Pablo Prima, who had been in Chemical Bank, went out to Crocker National Bank to start its energy department, and he hired me to go with him.
At Crocker?
At Crocker National Bank in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, okay.
Yeah.
So you were in Los Angeles, not San Francisco, you were Los Angeles.
That's correct.
Uh-huh.
And so I was doing energy lending there, and I was calling on customers in Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. And after a number of years, I ran into a fellow who had his own privately held oil company who hired me to be a financial officer for his group. And I was in the oil business for about 6 years. And in 1985, I had the opportunity to come back home. And I came back to Montgomery to work at Colonial Bank Group as the chief financial officer. Mm-hmm. And I was at Colonial for 22 years, retired there in 2007, and did just about everything for the bank. So asset liability management, investments, financial officer type functions, and had a great career there, and did that until '07. Then I had an opportunity to work for Governor Riley and Jim Maine as a consultant for his administration.
Young, you know, I write a column periodically when 9/11 happens, on the anniversary of 9/11. Whenever the 9/11 falls on that date, my column comes out. And I ask prominent political figures in the state their experience on 9/11. And I've had some good experiences, but I think yours is the most unique and poignant that I've had in 9/11. Tell our viewers the story that you were doing all the investments for Colonial, and you were actually talking to a guy at the tower. Tell that story if you don't mind, if you got time.
I do. I'll make it quick. It's a long story because a lot happened that morning. We come in early because you have to start establishing your position in Fed funds as quickly as possible. So David Jones, who is the cash manager for us, was already in the office. I came in. David was on the phone to a fellow who was at the brokerage firm that we used in order to start the position, and he was in the second tower. David comes into my office and he says, "Gosh, you won't believe this, but a plane just flew into the World Trade Center." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And so the guy he was talking to said, "I have to get out of this building." And so he left immediately, went out and got away, and luckily was a survivor from the thing. But we then ran upstairs to where the only place in the building that had a TV was on, and we watched the second plane crash into the other tower, and we're thinking, "Oh my God,
he's there.
This is an attack, and we know he's trying to get out. I hope he gets out." And he did. And it was quite a terrible morning, because I also at that time realized my daughter had been in London on a school trip, and they were flying from London to New York that day, and they were already in the air. And at that point in time, I didn't have any idea whether these planes were local planes crashing into the building or they were coming from other countries. And so I've been in this position where I'm thinking that my daughter is on a plane headed to New York and could be involved in something like this. I've never had such a terrible feeling in my whole life.
Young, you are perfectly suited for that position. I've never seen anybody who was perfectly suited. Let's cover two things that your office is doing. I'm not sure our viewers or many people in the state are even aware how important the treasurer's job is, and there are two things you're doing and doing very well. Cover the lost property and people have lost their valuables. Cover that if you would, and then also have time to talk about the college education program, which you've seen to have resurrected over there in the treasurer's office. Because these are two important things that our viewers ought to know something about.
Okay, be happy to. So on unclaimed property, now I'll go back, as I've been a treasurer, I've been a chief financial officer of a lot of organizations. The one thing I'd never done before I got to be the treasurer of the state of Alabama was unclaimed property, because only states do it. It is the most fun part of my job, because nothing gives people more pleasure than for us to reunite them with their own money. We presently have $1.3 billion in unclaimed property within the state of Alabama.
B with a billion.
B with a B. Billion.
Now, how much of that's cash? How much is personal property?
Most of it's cash.
Okay.
So 1.3 billion in total value. It represents about 12 million individual claims. So if you do the math, it's about $100, $110 a claim. So some of them are pretty small, but there's some that are really large.
Now tell our viewers how they got there.
Okay, a good example is, let's say you were in college and you went to Auburn and you had a checking account at the local bank and it had $100 in it, but then you got a job in Huntsville. And you went to Huntsville, you forgot about that account. After 3 years, that bank, if there's no activity on that account, is required to send the money to me for me to find you at a later date. So it can be something as simple as that. It can be a deposit that was to be returned to you that you didn't get. You moved from a certain location and checks came to you from the state of Alabama or someplace else, and they got returned to the state and we can't find you. That all gets turned over to us, and our job is to search and to find you and then return that money to you. This last fiscal year, we returned $41 million on 33,000 claims.
How did people find out about the money? How did you?
Well, okay, thank you for that. Okay, the easiest way to find out if they have unclaimed property, all they need to do is to go to our website, and that's treasury.alabama.gov. That'll take you to our home page. You press on the button that says unclaimed property. That'll take you to the home page of unclaimed property. And on that, it's going to ask you to submit certain information. Your name, let's say Young Boozer, and then your city, and I'd put in Montgomery. Hit the button and it'll go through our records, and if we've got something for you, it's going to pop up and say, here's your name and here's the approximate amount, and then you can also claim it online by filling out the information online. It's a really simple, easy way to do it. I encourage people to, especially this time of year, right? People are looking for a little bit of cash to buy Christmas presents and things like that. I was just at a luncheon and I ran into two people who had unclaimed property, and I said, look, if you get that information to us, we'll get it to you as quickly as possible, and maybe we can help you with those presents that you've been buying.
And the average is about 110, I think.
Average is about $100, let's call it, yeah.
And what's the biggest one you've ever given out?
Well, the biggest one I've been aware of has been $3 million.
Somebody found $3 million they had lost?
That's true. That's true.
How'd they lose $3 million?
Well, you kind of wonder that, but sometimes you don't want to get into that story, right? So, and sometimes it's an individual, sometimes it's an organization. So I encourage everybody to check on themselves, but you can also check on your family, your friends, your neighbors, the companies that you work for, United Way, whatever nonprofits you might be involved with. Look and see if they have unclaimed property. Several months ago, I was invited to speak at an association's meeting, annual meeting, and I said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. But before I went over there, I checked to see if they had unclaimed property. So I got up and I gave my little speech, something like basically what we're talking about here. And I said, oh, by the way, I checked on this organization to see if they had unclaimed property. And I cleared this with the executive director before I revealed how much the claim was. And I said, I have a claim for $9,700 for this organization. I think I paid for lunch.
And they had no idea. How did they had lost that $9,700?
These things happen all the time. The information is provided to us on an annual basis by people who are the holders, like banks, insurance companies, you name it. They are required to submit their information to us in October, all the way through December. So right now we are gathering new information and posting new claims on our website. So what I would say is everybody needs to claim it, needs to check at least once a year, right? So if you got a birthday, check on your birthday, right? Mm-hmm. See if you've got any unclaimed property, and then just follow the instructions and we can get it back to you.
You go to say the website again now.
Yes, treasury.alabama, spelled out, .gov, okay? And so please check it. We'd love to help you out. We just recently, we've sent out about 27,000 postcards that have the name of somebody and that we have unclaimed property, and so we're encouraging them to respond to that. So as people watch this show and they get that card, they know it's legit and they know that they can call on us, and we have something for them, and we just need to get it cleared up.
That's so interesting to me. How big has it grown between the first time you were treasurer in 2011 when you took the office the first time?
Yeah,
and now, and this time in December of 2024, that's been 14 years ago.
Yeah, I should have checked on that before I came over here. But I will say this: here's what I'll ballpark it. I would, for some reason, I think it was maybe $800,000.
And it's how much now?
$1.3 billion. So $500 million, $500 million.
It's just because money's gone, the value of things have gone up. Is that what it is?
Yes, and more people are reporting the information, and inflation has been a part of that.
Yeah. Well, Young, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
That is just, I love you hearing. I bet you've seen some great stories.
We've some amazing stories.
I bet you get some thankful people, don't you?
Everybody smiles. Everybody smiles.
I guess so.
Yeah.
What about personal property? What kind of how do they get their personal property?
Okay, well, and that usually it doesn't come in too often, but it comes in this way. somebody will have a safe deposit box at their bank, and they'll put valuables in it. So Aunt Tilly will have her jewelry.
She's passed away.
She's passed away, and so what's happened is that nobody's paid the fee on that box for 3 years. The banker goes in, closes the box out, sends the contents to us. We receive it, and we go through it, and we identify that she's got this jewelry. We record it, and what we'll do is we'll hold things like that for 2 to 3 years, because we really want to get those kinds of valuables to the rightful owner, because it has sentimental value as well as economic value.
Yeah.
So we hold it for up to 3 years, and then if it hasn't been claimed, what we will then do is we will package it up and we send it to a firm in Texas who has an online auction for us. All those tangibles will then be sold, and whatever they're sold for, that now becomes Aunt Tilly's value. So if her jewelry set sells for $1,000, Aunt Tilly's got $1,000 forever until somebody claims it from her estate or from her will.
Young, let's move from that to, that's really interesting. Do you have resurrected the college education fund?
Well, actually, we have two funds, right?
Okay.
The PAC plan is what you're talking about.
Did it actually go under when it had some problems?
We saved it.
Okay.
Okay. It was on its way to go under back in 2011. We figured out how to work it. You know, my personal philosophy is do the right thing, do it the right way, and do it right away. So we looked at it. We knew that the way it was structured was not going to work. So we came up with a structure that was going to work all the way to the end of the program. I'm not in the business of kicking the can down the road. Well, I'm interested in making decisions that will lead to permanent resolutions. And that's exactly what's happened. So we ran through, we had to go to court. We had to settle some lawsuits. We did that. We made some concessions in the program. And since then, it has worked exactly the way that we said it was going to work. And now we are in a position where we are back to paying full tuition to all those who are in the program. Now, the program is in liquidation. We only have about 4,500 accounts left. At the time this thing was restructured, there were 44,000. We've paid out almost $1.4 billion through that program.
But how did you pay it out? You didn't have the money to do it. Where did y'all get the money to pay it out?
Well, we had assets when we made the settlement, and then the state of Alabama agreed to put in $548 million over a 15-year period. And so we used those assets and that cash flow to properly manage the finances so that we could pay as much as we possibly could each year for those people who stayed in the program. Well, some people left the program, but they went over to the College Counts 529 program, which is the program. That is the way to save for your college education. Right now, we just had a board meeting. We've got about $2.7 billion in assets in that. It represents 121,000 accounts. The average account is about $27,000. The program's running really well. We've had great returns over the last couple of years. So that is the way to save for your child or your grandchild's college education.
I've been told that by accountants. You know, that's the way that.
Oh, absolutely.
529, whatever.
Now, one of the things that we were able to do early on was to establish a scholarship program called the College Counts 529 Scholarship Program. And what we've done is we had some assets that we received from the Alabama Higher Education Loan Corporation many, many years ago. That was basically the capital that we started with. And now we have a little bit of a cash flow off of the existing program that comes from fees on out-of-state investors. We built that up to about $17 million. And over the last 11 years, we've given out an average of about 300 scholarships a year, 2,000 for a 2-year school, 4,000 for a 4-year school. It is a needs-based program so that we're trying to help Alabama students get started in college. It's been incredibly successful.
Now, who pays for that? How's that paid for?
It's paid out of this fund that we have established.
Okay, who's funding it though?
Well, the capital that came from the other corporation, and then this cash flow that comes out of fees paid by people from out of state. There are no taxpayer dollars in this thing, not at all. It was a concept that we came up with to be able to help people get to college, get started, and I think over 3,000 recipients and over $11 million have been paid out.
How do kids find out about that?
Well,
when like the college age, when they apply for college, they say, here's the fund over here, or
we have communicated to all the high schools and to the college directors at those high schools that it's available. It's on our website. All the information is right there. And this is a great time for me to be here because applications were just open. The ability to open up an application just started on December the 1st. And so go to our website, look for the scholarship program, and follow the instructions. It'll be open until the spring, and then the awards will be determined at probably May or June or so.
Young, when the kids get ready to go to college, let's say this a kid's a senior in high school now, who's advising them on? Do they apply like if they want to go to say to Auburn or Troy? Let's say they want to go to Troy, and they live in Geneva County, in a small county school, but they know they're going to need some assistance, scholarship, or aid. Who coaches them now?
The school will have a counselor.
Every school has a counselor.
Every school does or should. Yeah, and we make contact with those counselors every year and update them on what we're doing and encourage them to have people apply. Now, one of the things that we've done in the structure of the program is our objective is to have at least one scholarship in every county. Right, so there's 67 counties out there. We would like to have at least one, and then once we've got, and maybe two, and once we've got those filled up, then we look for the next most worthy student to be able to receive additional ones. If we
So they have
ones.
to need the money.
Yes.
They you got to show a need.
Yes, that's right.
And it's a full scholarship.
No, it's not a full scholarship. It's a dollar scholarship for the first year.
So I mean, what I'm saying, I mean being full, but they don't pay it back. It's not a loan.
Oh, it's not.
It's,
no.
it's a certain dollar scholarship.
Yes, absolutely.
Go back to my first scenario. Let's say a kid in Geneva County.
Yes.
Is a senior, good student, wants to be a nurse.
Yes.
And they want to either go to Wallace and Dothan to be a nurse, or Troy to be a nurse.
Yeah.
They're going to say, I'm going to a 4-year school to be a nurse, or I'm going to a 2-year school to be a nurse.
In Alabama.
In Alabama.
Yes.
They're going to either Wallace and Dothan or Troy and Troy.
Right.
Do they get the same amount of money wherever they go?
No, they don't. So if they go to a 4-year school, they get $4,000 that first year.
Okay.
If they go to a 2-year school, they get $2,000 that first year. And it's a first-year scholarship to get people to school. This a lot of first-time college attendees are in this group.
Well, that would be that person I'm talking about might fit in that category. Now, are you limited like? Do certain more urban counties like Jefferson get more, or is it based on population, or
well,
how do you choose?
Yeah, what we do first is we try to cover the county so they have at least one.
Every county, 67 counties.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't have all 67. We will have 65 or 60, right? That's just the way it works. And then what happens is after that, it's based upon the need of the students who have applied. Now, what happens is that because larger counties have more people,
right.
They typically get more scholarships.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's not limited, like just where the applicants come from.
No.
It happens to be more kids applying in Jefferson County than Madison.
Yeah.
That's because
it's an annual numbers game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't if it gets to where you look like all of them come from Jefferson County, do you go to Madison? You look, y'all are a pretty big county. All the money's going to Jefferson. Do you ever get involved like that or anything?
We on an annual basis go around the state and encourage people to make more applications.
Well, now did you created that program?
Yeah,
didn't you?
we did.
What year did you start that?
So it was 11 years ago. This will be our 12th year. So it had to be about 2012, 2013.
What legislator did you work with to get that created? You had to do it by legislative act, or did you do it by administrative act?
Administrative action.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You were able to just create it like that?
Yes.
Well, that's a heck of a legacy, Young.
It's a
You ought
great
to name
legacy.
it the Young Boozer Scholarship.
No, we're not doing that.
Well, that's a pretty creative thing you've done over
Well, we've
there.
done some creative thinking all along in the Treasurer's Office.
That
Yeah.
really is. That's
Yeah.
a great program.
So if you look at some of the other things we do, we are responsible for the Alabama Trust
I
Fund.
bet nobody knows about that hardly. But the average voter don't know that's going on.
Well, and maybe they'll learn by watching this show.
Maybe so. They should.
Yeah, they should.
I mean,
agree.
this show needs to be watched and seeing what Young Boozer has done over there in the Treasury.
Yeah.
That is a great program.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
How many scholarships will y'all give a year out of that thing?
Typically, it's a little bit over 300.
That's a lot of students.
It's a lot of students. It's over 3,000 over the last years.
How'd you think of that? Did you learn some other state doing it? You just thought of yourself?
Well, we just thought of it ourselves. There were a number of people who were involved in coming up with the idea.
That's done. Do you oversee it? Do you have someone in your office oversee it? Do you personally oversee it?
Yes, I have responsibility for it, but Anita Kelly is the person.
Yeah, Anita's been with you a long time, hasn't she?
She has, and she is
The
fantastic.
whole time she's been with you, hasn't she?
Yeah, well, almost 10 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she's so personal.
And she runs the College Counts 529 program.
She
She's
runs both of them.
and responsible for the PAC program. And also we've started an ABLE account. It's called Achieving a Better Life Experience. And it's the 529 concept of saving today for expenses in the future for people with disabilities so that they can pay for those disability needs and aids that they have to have in the future. And the reason this came about is probably in 2014 a law was passed that allowed these to be set up. And the idea was at that time if you were receiving payments, monthly payments from federal programs, if you had more than $2,000 in savings, you had the potential of losing your benefits, which is insane, right? Because $2,000 in today's world is nothing. A classic example was our first client, our first customer was a young lady who was disabled. She's from North Alabama. She had a service dog by the name of Astro. All of us who like the Jetsons will get that. And Astro was kind of aging out, and she needed to get a new service dog. Well, she priced out service dogs, and they were $10,000 to $15,000. Well, she could only save 2, so it was impossible for her to be able to do this on her own. So we opened up an account for her. She saved some more money. Some other people put some money in because other people can contribute to it. So it's not just family and friends. It could be anybody that does that. And so she got a new service dog, and it turned out to be great. Now, we presently have 1,300 such accounts.
Wow.
And it is a fantastic benefit because now those people can save up to $100,000 without jeopardizing any of their payments.
Doggone. Well, Young, that's a great program. Our time's up. I appreciate you. Hey, we can have to do another show and get some more programs like this.
Okay.
I didn't know what all you're doing over there.
We're busy.
I know you really are.
Yeah.
Folks, our guest tonight has been Young Boozer, the state treasurer. He's covered some real good ground. Hope y'all are watching, and thank y'all for watching. Hope you'll tune in again next week for Alabama Politics. Thank you, Young.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This has been Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, a production of Troy University Television. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Troy University, its administration, faculty, staff, or students.